With such a vast array of creatures in the world, it can often be challenging to determine whether something is real or entirely fabricated. Throughout history, people have created their own monsters, presenting them as genuine specimens, which naturally leads to skepticism, especially when something appears drastically different from anything else. However, there are instances where nature produces truly bizarre and extraordinary beings. Today, we'll explore 15 terrifying creatures that people initially thought were fake but are, in fact, very real. Let's get started. Number 15. Asian water spirit in tsunami. Tsunamis are some of the most powerful natural events that happen on Earth and can cause huge losses of life and large-scale damage if they strike in vulnerable areas. It is because of this that they have also played an important role in mythology around the world. In parts of Asia, they believe that the gigantic waves are inhabited by water spirits. This video, which was recorded in the wake of the 2011 tsunami that devastated coastal regions of Japan, might have actually captured one of these spirits in action. As a ripple passes through the water, an entity emerges and rises above a building and then vanishes in a flash. The footage has been studied by a number of experts, none of whom can explain what has happened here, but all who agree that it is something unknown. This very well could be proof of a tsunami spirit and may require us to come to a new understanding of what can cause these powerful waves in the first place. Number 14. Loch Ness Monster. The Loch Ness Monster is probably the most famous cryptid in the world, and there have been countless sightings and images taken of it since its first mention in the 1870s. Most of the photos have, however, been blurry or far from convincing, and many people have been accused of faking accounts in order to gain notoriety. This video, though, might change all of that and could also explain why the serpentine creature has been so difficult to locate. Simply put, what if there was a giant monster living in Loch Ness but that it looked very different from how the reports state? Here, a family is visiting the legendary lake when they start noticing something unusual underneath the waves. Before they begin recording, they apparently saw glimpses of the creature, so they got the camera out and hoped it would appear again. They were in luck. After looking in various directions for a few moments, the creature makes itself known once more by leaping out of the water. As you can see, this is not anything like the monster you think of when talking about Nessie, but it certainly does look like a prehistoric giant that is living in the loch. Is this therefore proof that the legends are true but that for some reason people got their descriptions wrong? We will let you decide. Number 13. El Chupacabra sighting. The Chupacabra is a legendary monster from Central America that is believed to feast on livestock in a vampire-like manner and is blamed for a number of mysterious events throughout Mexico and the nearby countries. The story of the Chupacabra only actually came forward recently in the 90s, and at first it was assumed to be from the imagination of a traumatized woman who had recently seen the movie Species. Further sightings have remained since then, though, and more people have become convinced that it truly does exist. This video, taken in broad daylight, could be the evidence needed to prove the Chupacabra to be real and was recorded in New Mexico. While hiking through the hills, a group of friends saw a strange creature in the distance. It appears to be almost human-like, walking on its hind legs, and as soon as it realizes it has been seen, it runs off. This is currently the only footage of a Chupacabra that has been captured in the daylight, but despite extensive searches of the area, no one has been able to find any trace of it. Was it simply migrating through to a new feeding spot? Or was this another creature that was just behaving differently on that occasion? Hopefully, we will soon find out and know whether the myth is true one way or another. Number 12. New Jersey Devil spotting. The Jersey Devil is a famous legend from the folklore of New Jersey and Philadelphia, where it is believed to move quickly through the undergrowth and emit a fierce, high-pitched scream. It hunts livestock and any people who find themselves out in the woods on their own, and is said to be extremely mean-spirited. The first reported sighting was recorded in 1735, and since then, people have encountered it every few years or so. It is notoriously effective at avoiding cameras, though, and so far no one has been able to get a perfect shot of one. This video, however, could be one of the first pieces of proof that it definitely does exist and was recorded at Leeds Point, New Jersey in 2015. As the camera pans across the skyline, a winged creature flies from one tree to the next. The microphone also picks up a strange noise as it lands, which could be the mysterious whale that is mentioned by witnesses. What do you think? Is this the New Jersey Devil in its natural habitat, or just a bird that makes an unwieldy landing in the dark? Number 11. Sewer creature in Canada. How far would you go to investigate a strange sound that you have heard? Would you go so far as to enter a sewer in your curiosity? Well, neither would I, but there are some people who would, like these friends in this next video from Ontario, Canada. They noticed some odd sounds coming from a pipe near a trail that they enjoyed walking along. So later that night, they decided to see if they could find what was causing it. As they entered the drain, they turned around the first corner where the sounds started to get louder and louder. They started to get concerned about what they might find, and then suddenly, a human-like creature appears out of nowhere and begins chasing them. Reacting purely out of instinct, the friends turn and run as fast as they can to get out of there, and thankfully they manage to escape the tunnel before it caught up with them. Seemingly not interested in leaving the sewer network, it gave up the chase and presumably returned to the lair from where it had come. What was this creature? Was it a person who had made the sewer their home, or some as of yet undiscovered species? It was easy enough to find the first time, so it is highly doubtful that this will be the last time anyone sees it. Now it's time for today's topic. This time we have an image that was sent in by one of our viewers. As you can see, it's a picture of a gigantic spider preparing to eat her. We don't know how it managed to knock her out or whether it opportunistically found her, but there's little chance that she's going to get out of there alive. It's not entirely clear what species this spider is, but it's absolutely huge. The spider's legs are thick and hairy, each one as long as a human arm, and its fangs glisten with a menacing sheen. Its body is a dark, mottled brown, blending eerily with the shadows of its surroundings, making it almost invisible until it's too late. The woman lies motionless, her face pale and expressionless, as the spider looms over her, its mandibles twitching in anticipation. The image is so vivid and unsettling that it's hard to look away, yet equally hard to keep staring. Now, if you're skeptical about the ability of an arachnid to get this big, just consider this. The current world record holder is the size of a small puppy, and the biggest known spider in history is thought to have had a body that was 2 feet across, and that's not including its legs. So what do you think? Could you believe that spiders can grow to this large? And what would you do if you came face to face with one? Number 10. Mysterious werewolf creature. Werewolves were long thought to be creatures of legend, but recent evidence has emerged that they may actually truly exist. A farmer in Montana saw what he thought was a wolf on his ranch and shot it before it got to any of his livestock. When he approached the carcass, though, he realized something wasn't right. It does look like a wolf and has similar facial features, but experts say that it's slightly different from what they're expecting. The creature's fur was unusually thick, with patches of coarse, almost human-like hair mixed in. Its claws were longer and more curved than those of a typical wolf, resembling something between an animal's and a human's nails. The farmer reported that the beast's eyes, even in death, seemed to hold an eerie intelligence, as if it had once been something more than just an animal. Locals began to share stories of strange howls echoing through the night, sounds that didn't quite match any known wildlife. Some even claimed to have seen a figure walking on 2 legs in the distance, only to vanish into the shadows. The creature's teeth were another point of fascination, with canines that were disproportionately large and sharp, almost as if designed for tearing through flesh. What they are certain of is that it's a young female that wasn't lactating and was a member of the dog family, but beyond that, they struggled to accurately identify it. The general agreement is that it was definitely not a purebred wolf, and DNA tests were taken to learn more. Unfortunately, these were inconclusive, so we're left to wonder what created the beast. Is it a dire wolf, a cross between a wolf and another canine species? Or was it formerly a person who, for some reason, went through a series of drastic changes? Number 9. Strange mystery sea creature. We've barely begun to explore the vast oceans on our planet, and every year, hundreds of new aquatic species continue to be discovered. While most of these are found during scientific missions or in fishermen's catches, occasionally something washes up on the beach that's never been seen before, and quite often, they can look out of this world. This video from 2017 shows what locals from an Indonesian village found in a lagoon nearby. The big mound of flesh was just floating there and discoloring the water as its blood was being washed out. It looks unlike any creature that anyone knows from the environment around the island or anywhere else in the world. The villagers gathered around, whispering stories of ancient sea monsters and mythical beings that once roamed the depths. Some even claimed to hear faint, eerie sounds emanating from the mass, though others dismissed it as the wind. The smell was overwhelming, a mix of decay and salt, making it hard to approach. Scientists who arrived on the scene noted the creature's unusual texture, which seemed to defy typical decomposition patterns. Its surface was covered in strange, fibrous strands that glistened in the sunlight, almost like a network of veins. The lagoon's water had turned a murky red, and small fish began to avoid the area entirely. Locals reported that birds refused to land near the creature, as if sensing something unnatural. Despite its grotesque appearance, there was an odd beauty to it, a reminder of the ocean's endless mysteries. So what could it possibly be? Is it a newly found species of creature that just so happened to wash up, or some form of whale that has been decomposing in the ocean for quite some time? Experts were brought in and were as baffled as the villagers, who at first thought it was a demon. Despite samples being sent back to a laboratory for further testing, to this day, no one knows for certain what it was. The only thing they did know for sure is that the flesh was real, and that it most definitely was not some elaborate hoax. Number 8. Mysterious creature on the beach. Here's another strange creature that was found washed up on a beach, this time in Acapulco, Mexico. A man had been taking a stroll along the shoreline in 2016 when he came across it and went to have a closer look. He didn't have anything to help clean it, though, and resorted to moving the sand-covered carcass with a pole. The creature's body was massive, at least 10 feet long, with a rough, scaly texture that glistened faintly in the sunlight. Its head was elongated, with a row of sharp, jagged teeth visible even through the sand, and its eyes, though lifeless, seemed to stare eerily into the distance. The man noticed strange, fin-like appendages along its sides, unlike anything he had ever seen on a fish or marine mammal. The creature's tail was thick and muscular, ending in a spiked, paddle-like structure that suggested it was a powerful swimmer. As he prodded it, the carcass twitched slightly, as though some residual life force still lingered within it, sending a chill down his spine. A faint, acrid smell emanated from the creature, unlike the usual briny scent of the ocean, and it made the man's eyes water. He noticed strange, bioluminescent patches along its body, glowing faintly even in the daylight, adding to its otherworldly appearance. The man's heart raced as he realized he might be looking at something entirely unknown to science, something that defied explanation. He was understandably quite anxious about touching it or getting too close and went home to get some equipment to help investigate further. Later in the afternoon, when he returned, however, the beast was nowhere to be seen, and the beach was closed. What could have been so important that authorities took steps to prevent people from getting close even after the creature was gone? Are there animals whose existence is being kept a secret from us, or was this releasing dangerous substances onto the beach? The man never found out, and although several news outlets reported on the story, they were unable to get any concrete answers from the government. To this day, it remains a mystery, but it's probably only a matter of time before something like this happens again, and the mystery may finally be solved. Number 7. Strange mystical creature in Laos. In July of 2018, a man was walking on a beach in Long Sally, Laos, when he found this very peculiar animal. Not knowing what it was, he did what any decent wildlife presenter would do. He got his camera out to record it and then started poking it with a stick. At first, it jumps across the sand quite quickly and almost looks like a bright pink flying fish. When he prods it, though, white appendages appear to stick forward out of its body, and then it opens its wings to fly away. The wings are translucent, with intricate patterns that resemble delicate lace, and they shimmer faintly in the sunlight. The creature's body is covered in tiny, iridescent scales that shift colors as it moves, creating a mesmerizing effect. Its eyes are large and dark, giving it an almost intelligent expression as it watches the man cautiously. The creature emits a faint, high-pitched hum, almost like a musical note, as it moves, adding to its otherworldly presence. When it lands again, it folds its wings neatly against its body, blending seamlessly into the sand like a living piece of art. The man notices that the creature's movements are deliberate and graceful, as though it is fully aware of its surroundings. A faint, sweet scent, reminiscent of tropical flowers, lingers in the air around it, adding to the surreal experience. The creature seems unbothered by the man's presence, as though it is accustomed to being observed but remains just out of reach. He follows after it, and it's sitting still on the ground once again. Its colors and shape are so vivid that it almost looks like an orchid flower that's fallen from a plant. Have you ever seen anything like this before? Has he discovered a new species? Or was it something that's common in the area but has taken on a different color? No one knows for sure, but if you're ever visiting Laos and see people poking flowers with sticks, you'll know what they're looking for. Number 6. Creepy creature crosses highway. Highways are dangerous places for animals. Just think of the amount of roadkill you often see when driving. So, creatures have two choices: avoid the roads altogether or try to cross as fast as possible. This footage, which was captured by a street camera in Mexico, shows something taking the second option and managing to dart across the lanes when there was a gap in the traffic. It's a dark night, so it wouldn't have been seen by any vehicles before it was too late, but in this instance, it may have been more frightening for the drivers. At full speed, the creature crosses too quickly to make out what it is, but when the footage is slowed down, things take a mysterious twist. The creature's body is lean and muscular, covered in short, dark fur that seems to shimmer faintly under the streetlights. Its limbs are long and oddly proportioned, giving it an almost unnatural appearance as it moves with a strange, loping gait. The creature's head is angular, with pointed ears that twitch as if listening for danger, and its eyes glow with an eerie, reflective light. Its tail, long and whip-like, trails behind it, flicking sharply as it leaps over the guardrail on the opposite side of the road. The camera captures the sound of its claws scraping against the asphalt, a sharp, metallic sound that sends chills down the spine. Witnesses who saw the footage described an overwhelming sense of unease, as though the creature exuded an aura of primal fear. The creature's movements are fluid and deliberate, as though it has crossed highways countless times before, always just out of sight. It pauses for a fraction of a second in the middle of the road, its head turning slightly as if scanning its surroundings, before it vanishes into the darkness. What animal is this exactly? In the weeks and months prior to this being recorded, people have reported strange sightings of a creature nearby, and some livestock had been viciously attacked. Could the two be linked? Frustratingly, no trace of it has ever been found, and there weren't even any footprints next to the road where it crossed. Some believe it to be a chupacabra caught on tape, while others think it's an unknown species of coyote or wild dog. What do you think? Number 5. Real-life werewolf. Finally, we're going to end back where we started with another video that's fairly good proof of the existence of werewolves. This person from Western Ohio had been experiencing strange events outside of their house. There were strange noises, animals went missing, and some of their property was being damaged. It was becoming quite distressing, so they set up a camera in the yard to find out what was responsible. When they watched the footage back, they couldn't believe it. When it was dark, a creature emerges from the woods and moves around the yard for a bit. The creature's silhouette was massive, standing at least 7 feet tall, with a hunched posture and long, muscular limbs. Its fur was thick and dark, glistening faintly under the moonlight, and its eyes glowed with an eerie, golden hue. The creature moved with a strange, almost human-like gait, but its movements were punctuated by sudden, animalistic bursts of speed. It paused near the family's shed, sniffing the air as if searching for something, its breath visible in the cold night air. The camera captured the sound of low, guttural growls, sending shivers down the spines of anyone who heard it. At one point, the creature turned its head sharply toward the camera, its snout twitching as if it sensed it was being watched. Its claws, long and curved, scraped against the ground as it moved, leaving deep gouges in the dirt. The family later described an overwhelming sense of dread, as though they were being stalked by something far more intelligent than a wild animal. The creature lingered for a few moments, its presence casting an unnatural silence over the yard, before it suddenly bolted back into the woods with startling speed. Yes, the images are blurry, but you can clearly make out the size of the creature and the unusual way in which it's moving around. It almost seems like it's a cross between a wild animal like a wolf and a human. There are no known creatures in the woods that behave in this way, so if it's not a werewolf, you have to wonder what is actually lurking out there and interfering with this family's property. Number 4. Bigfoot sighting. Bigfoot is undoubtedly the most legendary and sought-after cryptid in North America. It's mentioned in so many different works of fiction, TV shows, and the subject of documentaries that if it truly does exist, it seems amazing that evidence hasn't yet been found. But maybe it actually has. This video is one of the best yet of the mysterious creature and could prove once and for all that it's real. 2 teenagers were riding their ATV in Maine one day when they caught a glimpse of a strange figure moving in the woods near their home. Not knowing what it was, they got a camera out and began to record. At first, they didn't think they caught anything on camera, but later on, when they were reviewing the footage, they saw the unmistakable shape of a hairy, human-like creature walking through the trees. The figure was massive, standing at least 8 feet tall, with broad shoulders and a thick, muscular build. Its fur was dark and matted, blending seamlessly with the shadows of the forest, and it moved with a deliberate, almost predatory grace. The creature paused for a moment, turning its head slightly as if it sensed it was being watched, its eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. The teens could hear the faint crunch of leaves under its massive feet, even through the video's audio, and the sound sent a chill down their spines. The creature's arms swung slightly as it walked, its hands large and clawed, brushing against the low-hanging branches. It seemed completely at ease in its environment, as though it had walked those woods countless times before. The teens later described an overwhelming sense of awe and fear, as though they had stumbled upon something ancient and primal. The video captures the moment the creature steps into a small clearing, where the sunlight catches its fur, revealing subtle details like scars and patches of lighter hair. It looks almost identical to how Bigfoot is meant to be and is just casually walking through the shot. It's amazing to think they could be the first people in the world to get conclusive proof of Bigfoot, but despite the perfect image, there are still some skeptics who believe it's all a hoax. Some people, though, are never going to believe in Bigfoot unless one stands right in front of them, so for now, this video is the best we've got. What do you think of it? Has it got you convinced? Number 3. Unicorn deer. Legends from around the world speak of mythical unicorn-like creatures, but it's generally thought that even if they did once exist, they no longer do. But is that really the case? Skeptics have long suggested that the stories could have instead been inspired by narwhals or other single-horned animals, but this video could well be the proof we've been waiting for that unicorns are actually real. In it, you can see what appears at first to be a deer in the undergrowth, but when you look closely at its head, you'll notice that instead of having 2 horns, it only has 1. The single horn is long and spiraled, gleaming faintly in the sunlight as if it were made of polished ivory. The deer moves gracefully through the foliage, its coat a rich, earthy brown that blends seamlessly with the forest surroundings. Its eyes are large and luminous, giving it an almost mystical appearance, as though it were aware of its own rarity. The creature pauses for a moment, tilting its head as if listening to something only it could hear, before continuing its quiet journey through the trees. The video captures the moment it steps into a small clearing, where the sunlight catches its horn, casting a faint, ethereal glow. The air around it seems to shimmer slightly, as if the very atmosphere is affected by its presence. A faint, almost musical hum can be heard in the background, though it's unclear whether it's the wind or something more mysterious. The deer's movements are deliberate and unhurried, as though it exists in a world untouched by time. It glances briefly at the camera, its gaze piercing and intelligent, before disappearing into the dense underbrush. The person filming the video later described feeling a sense of awe and wonder, as though they had witnessed something truly extraordinary. There's no manipulation of the footage here and no suggestion that it's a fake, so what are we actually looking at? Could it be a deer that's been born with a birth defect, or an incredibly rare species that only grows one horn and is, in fact, a true unicorn? After the video was released to the world, researchers visited the area where it was recorded to try and study the animal. They were unable to locate it. If this one was able to disappear, then maybe there could be far more of them in hiding, and one day we may discover that unicorns have been real all along. Number 2. Dead mermaid. Whether you're a fan of the Disney mermaids that are cute and friendly or of other incarnations that are far more sinister, there's no doubt that the myth has piqued the curiosity of countless people who want to believe that there are humans who have adapted to live underwater. With so much of the ocean still to explore, it could well be possible that there are communities living down there that we just haven't come across yet. Evidence of the existence of mermaids is actually surprisingly common. Here's a video, for example, from the coast of Florida. The man had been kayaking out at sea and stopped off on a small island when he spotted something very unusual. As he moves in closer, it becomes clear that this is the body of a woman, but she has a fishtail where her legs should be. The scales on her tail shimmered faintly in the sunlight, though they were dulled by the effects of decay. Her hair, tangled and matted, clung to her face, partially obscuring features that still bore an eerie, otherworldly beauty. The man noticed strange markings on her arms, resembling intricate tattoos or perhaps natural patterns unique to her kind. A faint, briny smell hung in the air, mingling with the scent of salt and seaweed. As he knelt down for a closer look, he noticed her hands, webbed between the fingers, and her nails, which were long and slightly curved, almost like claws. The sand around her body was disturbed, as if she had been dragged ashore by the tide or something else entirely. He felt a strange sense of unease, as though he was being watched, and glanced around nervously, but the island was deserted. The silence was broken only by the sound of waves lapping against the shore, and the occasional cry of a distant seabird. He couldn't shake the feeling that this was no ordinary discovery, but a glimpse into a hidden world that humans were never meant to see. Looking at the state of decay, she'd probably been dead for quite some time and had begun to dry out in the heat. While this may seem too good to be true, it's one of the strongest arguments that mermaids do exist, and perhaps one day we'll encounter whole communities of them. Number 1. Something in the well. How would you react if you found a strange creature on your property? A man from Russia had to confront his fears when he heard some weird sounds emanating from somewhere on his land. He went in search of whatever it was and found that the noises were coming from an abandoned well covered in slats. It's clearly not been used for a long time, so could it be the perfect place for something to make into its home? The disturbing answer to this question is yes. He points his camera down through the gaps, and at first all he saw was darkness. As he moved it around for alternate angles, though, he sees the shadow of a head and 2 eyes reflecting back at him. The eyes glowed faintly, almost like they were alive, and the head seemed to tilt slightly, as if it were studying him. A low, guttural growl echoed from the depths, sending chills down his spine. The air around the well felt unnaturally cold, and a faint, metallic smell wafted up, making him gag. He could hear faint scratching sounds, like claws scraping against stone, and the shadowy figure seemed to shift, as if preparing to move. His heart raced as he realized the creature was not alone. Faint whispers, almost like voices, seemed to emanate from the darkness. The whispers grew louder, forming unintelligible words that sent a wave of dread through him. He felt an inexplicable pull, as if the well was trying to draw him closer, and his hands trembled as he fought the urge to lean in. The eyes suddenly blinked, and the figure let out a sharp, inhuman hiss, causing him to stumble backward. Not knowing what to make of it, he ran away as fast as he could and didn't look back. After reviewing the footage, no one knows what he caught on tape that day, and he definitely doesn't want to know. The well is now off limits, and he won't let anyone go near, just in case that thing that lives in there is still around. Which of these did you think were fake at first but now realize might be legitimate? Would you want to see any of them in real life? Make sure to let us know in the comments section. Also, Check out our other cool stuff showing up on screen right now. See you next time.